Hello everyone, welcome to the first episode of our talk show, or you could say podcast, in the Just Jesus channel platform. Alright, so we did an introduction video the other time where I introduced myself, I talked about the purpose of Just Jesus, the target audience, and what we are set to achieve. And so today we're going to dive right into one of the beautiful, amazing topics that we have for our talk show. There's so many things we're going to talk about in this talk show podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of things. But today we're going to be starting with the very foundation, the introductory video of what every of our discussion is going to be built upon. And join me as I dive in. Welcome again to episode 1. Alright, so like I said in our previous video, Just Jesus aims at helping young adults and teenagers, though we are also open to the general public. We are set basically for the young adults and teenagers, helping them navigate through life issues that come up in their life. They're faced with a lot of challenges based on experience, background, the environment, and so one thing Just Jesus channel is going to help them do is help them overcome or navigate their way through this challenge, and we'll be helping them become better individuals. We'll be helping them in the aspect of fear, addiction, self-esteem, and everything related to that. That's what we'll be discussing. But before we move into this discussion, I would like to liken fear, addiction, and everything to fruits that we put in a basket, right? They are like fruits in a basket. So we must first talk about the basket before we now talk about the fruit. The basket is what holds the fruit, right? It's what holds the fruit. The basket represents the capacity. It represents capacity. It talks about a lot of things, depth and everything. So the size of the basket matters, because the size of the basket also determines the number of the fruits it can hold. The capacity matters, the depth matters. If it's very deep, it can hold a lot of fruits. So we'll be talking about the basket. I also liken it to in mathematics where we talk about sets. We have subsets and we have universal sets. Fear, addiction, self-esteem, and all these topics are just subsets. The universal set is what hosts them, and that is what we're talking about. And today we'll start with the very foundation, which is strongholds. So our first topic is we're talking about strongholds. So join me again as we go right into the discussion. Alright, welcome back. Strongholds. What are strongholds? What I have here. Strongholds are anything that is deeply rooted and hard to remove or break. Something that is deeply rooted. When you plant a tree, the root has to go deep into the soil for it to stay. So strongholds are things that are like roots. They are deeply rooted, and it is not something that you can just pull out. You can't just pull out a tree from the soil. It will take a lot of effort and work before you can do that. So that is what strongholds are. Strongholds can also be likened to wrong thoughts, beliefs, or mental pattern that go against the truth and keep a person stuck. They can be wrong thoughts. Anything wrong is definitely negative. They can be beliefs. So your belief comes from something, and that thing that it comes from can be positive or negative. If it's negative, it will that's what we call strongholds. And then your mental pattern, the way you think, and the way you think affects your mind. The Bible said, "Show me as a man thinketh, so he is." So your mental thinking, how do you think? It also affects who you are, and this is as a product of strongholds. And then lastly, as a stronghold is a lie, because definitely it is not the truth. It's a lie or a pattern that has stayed so long. So strongholds are things they've stayed so long. It's not something that was built in one day. It's a process that has stayed so long, and is a lie or it's a pattern, and it make because of the length that it has stayed or how long it has stayed, it begins to look like the truth. and then it controls your life. So that's what now affects your belief system or your value system, because it's a lie, or it begins to look like the truth. It's a lie, but it begins to look like the truth. Alright, we'll be considering 2 Corinthians 10:3-5, talking about how we deal with strongholds. It was talking about pulling down, but you don't just pull down strongholds, everything comes line in line. Strongholds, like we discussed, they are deeply rooted. The roots are deep. They're not things that you can just come and say, yeah, I'm removing you, I'm throwing you into the garbage. It's not possible. It's a lot of work, because it has become a belief system, a mental pattern, a lie that has already become a truth to you, and it controls your life. So it will take a lot of work for you to restructure your life into the truth that it ought to be. And for me, just Jesus will be focusing on how God can help individuals break themselves free from this stronghold, because if you don't, it will limit you and limit where God wants to take you to. And so before we start discussing about a lot of things, in our next series we'll talk about what causes strongholds, and we'll proceed into the effect of the strongholds, and then we'll now go into discussing these strongholds proper. And some of the strongholds we'll be discussing: I have fear, like I mentioned earlier, I have regret and guilt, I have grief, I have anger, I have inconsistency, I have hate, envy, jealousy, I have depression, I have self-esteem, I have suicidal thoughts, I have abuse in all forms, whether verbal, emotional, financial. Talk about it. I have addiction, I have traumas. For traumas, I divided into different sections. I have rape, I have cheating, I have betrayal, I have heartbreak, I have dysfunctional background, I have stigma from the past or from your past mistakes, I have reaction from people, I have lies, I have stealing, I have teenage pregnancy, I have even the church, religion, I have pride, I have rebellion, I have intimidation, I have bullying, I have social media, I have peer pressure. Now, from the list of everything I discussed, you know that these things are a lot of things affecting young adults and teenagers, and some of them have changed the course of a lot of people's life. Stronghold at first most times does not look bad, but if not properly dealt with, it can mar the future of an individual. Alright, thank you so much for joining me for this first episode, and we'll be doing the next episode in the next video that will be uploaded. Strongholds, they are not to be kept. Strongholds are not to be groomed. They are to be pulled out, and I'm here to take you through this journey and help you do justice to that with the help of God, definitely. Because if you don't pull out the strongholds, they will limit you. They will limit your journey in life. They will limit where God wants to take you to. Everybody has a pathway that God has created them to take, but you can't go far